Hi all, I welcome you to the Building Culture podcast where I invite incredibly smart people who build things. Whether they be engineers, entrepreneurs, programmers, hobbyists or researchers, it does not matter. As long as you're someone who's passionate about building things, I'll find you and podcast you. Hi all, I want to take a brief moment to thank you all personally for supporting this podcast on YouTube and on all major podcast platforms, including Google Podcasts and Spotify. The podcast mainly features interesting people in robotics, artificial intelligence, and entrepreneurship. If you believe that the information that I'm providing might be of benefit to you or to someone you know, it would be really great if you could hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon so that you can get notified on time whenever the next part is out. It would literally take you a second or two to subscribe to the podcast, but it would really mean a lot to me because I can grow the podcast to a level where I can reach more people, invite ever more interesting guests, and have a more meaningful impact. So let's begin now. And in today's episode, I would like to welcome someone who is currently doing his PhD at the Open University in Netherlands. His areas of research include technology enhanced learning, multimodal learning, and analytics, along with other areas related to education. He is someone who is incredibly motivated and has this drive to contribute meaningfully towards the society. In fact, the first line of his LinkedIn says that ambition and optimism drive me. He's also a YouTuber. He makes YouTube videos where he shares his journey of his PhD experience as well as provides tips and guidance for people who want to get an admission in universities in Netherlands. He also makes a lot of interesting content related to his journey in Netherlands. Without any further ado, let's welcome Sambit Praharaj.
So thank you, Chandandeep, for so many nice words about describing about my research and also my part-time hobby, which I do on YouTube. And thank you for inviting me again for the podcast. And I'm looking forward to talk to you further.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll have a really interesting conversation. So let's start by talking about your research. When was the moment that you decided to do your research, and how did you come about choosing this particular topic for your research? And also a bit about what your topic is first.
Okay. Let me try to make it more understandable for everyone, maybe irrespective of the backgrounds that people are coming from, because otherwise it won't make any sense to explain something which people don't understand. So when I started my master thesis, I normally in Europe you do a master thesis where you do a short-term research, which is basically like 1/4 or 1/5 of what you do in a PhD in the whole journey of a PhD. So when I joined the masters in TU Delft, Netherlands, where I did my masters in 2015 to 17 in computer science, then I had in my mind in the beginning, even I mentioned that in the motivation letter through which I got admit in TU Delft, was to do something on research in algorithm field. So, but when I joined, I think I have mentioned that in many of the videos also, that they have like a research group presentation. So for example, if computer science, we have like 9 to 10 research foci, and among them they have like a kickoff presentation where they show you like what their group is doing, who are the members, what they can contribute, and how can you fit in there and do your master thesis, and what is your what are the possibilities. So in that, for some reason, it was, I think, like in the initial 4 or 6 months of my masters when I started in Netherlands, I was quite interested in the topics that was part of this group, which is called the Web Information Systems. Although don't go by their name because their name sounds like that, but they do multiple varieties of research, which are like which one of the thing I was also doing was like looking into the education in the classroom and getting the log data of the students from the classroom to detect engagement. So in simple words, it's like, suppose everyone is nowadays using a laptop at least in the classroom. So we had some kind of a software which was obviously not built by me, because most of the master students are kind of like assistants or kind of work on a part of what a PhD is doing. So in my case, it was like a PhD who had contact with my supervisor, but he was not a PhD in Netherlands, he was a PhD in Switzerland. But he wanted to do some experiments to collect some data for his software, which was basically like a URL. If you click that URL in your laptop and go there, then the presentation that is made in the whole classroom of 200 to 300 students during a bachelor or master's lecture, in our case it was bachelor's, is shown there like on the screen. So whatever the teacher shows you in the slides can also be seen by them in the screen once they are logged in through that URL. And then whatever action they do on the slides, like for example, if they minimize the presentation or click somewhere on the presentation on their screen, because they can interact with it. So those are like the log data. So these interactions where it can be tracked using that whole infrastructure that he has built, which was accessible by only a URL. And my job was like to do a sub part of it. Like for example, I collect those data in a database. That data is already collected in a database. I create the data dump from that database of the interactive data logs. So for example, it can be a click, it can be, there are many events defined there. Like I don't want to go into the details, but there are like 14 to 15 events which had certain characteristics, and we tried to group them to certain proxies of engagement. So for example, maybe someone is clicking and hovering, and this is some level of engagement. And so those are more like proxies. You cannot call it like this is really a definition of engagement, because obviously people will have phones and other mode of distraction which we are not tracking. We are only tracking their activity on the laptop. And then based on that, we tried to formulate certain research questions, certain engagement metrics, and try to say like how I think, if I don't forget, because it was like 3-4 years back, but I think the name of the tool was ASQ, and I don't remember the abbreviation, but you can see my thesis link in the description if you are interested, master thesis. So my part was to capture those data dumps and then visualize them using different software. I was using R to show like what can it do, like what can that tool do and what can it tell about the engagement. And the next step, which I did not do in my master thesis, was the future work that they thought to do later, was to have some kind of real-time interventions based on these insights that they have gathered. And I think I forgot one thing. We also use some kind of quizzes. So during the lectures, because we have this access via the URL, so we can upload it as HTML. Like the slide was in the HTML format. So there is a JavaScript, and you can like embed certain quizzes in between the lectures. And when students answer those quizzes, we can see that live on the screen, because everyone is connected by that URL, like what was the response percentage and everything. And I think there are many smart systems based on that, but our objective was like to see those insights, and from that also take some parameters like the reaction time of the students. If we put the quizzes in the beginning of the lecture and the end of the lecture, how the students behave. So it was like a behavior metrics in the classroom. So the whole research was like based on this, gathering some analytics about the engagement and behavior of students in the classroom during the lectures. And this is, I think, like if you Google, it is a very popular topic in the last 7-8 years. It has rose I think it started also like in the last decade only. It was not a very popular term before that, but now it has become really popular, which is called learning analytics. And learning analytics is basically, in simple words, it's like gathering data about the learners or the students, you can say. It can be in any environment. Like in my case, it was a face-to-face environment in a physical classroom, but as you can see in the COVID-19 era, everything has moved online. And the group which I'm working now in my PhD also work on that topic, but most of the 80% of the people do research on MOOCs. So MOOCs, I think most people will know, is massive open online courses, and it has a lot of potential. Like I don't do research on MOOCs, but I know from my colleagues that in MOOCs there was potential, but now it has been amplified after the COVID-19 era. So you will get a lot of data, and you can use that to your benefit if you want to make some MOOCs. But going back to my journey, so because I had this background on doing research in the classroom, and basically I did not use, I used that technology, but I did not build that technology. But because I had that background, so I was looking for something which is around learning analytics, and preferably in a physical space, not like in a digital space, because my research was more on that. So my PhD initially, normally in PhDs in Netherlands, I think it is true for most of the Europe also, that sometimes most PhDs have like a half industry and half university, which is like a joint contract. So you don't worry about your salary, you get your salary, but your research is involving two parties. So in my case, I did not have a particular contract from any industry, so it is not an industrial collaboration. It was purely internal, and purely internal PhDs, at least in Netherlands, is very rare. So luckily they had a position, and I think I mentioned that in one of the video also about how I got my PhD as an accident. So many of the So many of the my viewers, I think one or two, they pointed out, and it also made me think, like, you are saying it is accident, but maybe you grabbed the right opportunity at the right time, so you got that position. But disregarding that, what I was trying to say is that so when I applied for this position, because it was internal, so there was no strict definition of what I'm going to do in the PhD. And in a way it is good, in a way it is bad. Like, you have a lot of freedom, but it also makes you think, like, depending on where you are coming from or what is your background, if you have so much work experience or something like that. I didn't have that, so I didn't have that thought, because I just coming fresh, one education, another education, and so I did not have that much maturity or thinking level in me. But so what I wanted to say is that if applied for the PhD, the position explicitly said that your background should be in psychology. That is what I mentioned in the video. But the supervisors, the people who posted that, they were from this learning analytics background, and I knew them. I have never met them by any conference, or I have never messaged them, because normally people do that to build their network during the masters if they want to work with certain number of people or specific persons in the PhD. It helps a lot. But I did not do that, but I was following them kind of sneakily, like seeing their work and following where they are going, and because I liked a lot about their work. So when I saw that this position is related to them, even though they say it is psychology, because it doesn't have a defined description, so I thought, like, why not let's try and see in the interview, then I can decide if I get selected to that point. So when I got that point, then my online interview was one of my promoters. At that time he was an associate professor, now he's a full professor. So I have seen a lot of his work, and I'm really impressed by the work he's done. And in the online interview, he mentioned clearly when I was discussing about this psychology thing, like I obviously don't have a psychology background, but you have already called me, so probably you are interested also. Otherwise, why would you call me for the interview? And I found that they said, like, because they have different divisions in open university, like psychology, educational science, so they don't have explicitly on the face something like computer science, but the people in educational science are, half of them are computer scientists who work on both educational science. It's not actually both, it's very interdisciplinary, so it's like educational science, which is the theory, and the application part comes from computer science and HCI, human computer interaction. So it's very diverse. And when you are coming from an Indian mindset, to me initially I was thinking like, oh, it's not computer science, what will happen? But I think it is more like, at least here, the more higher you go, it becomes very interdisciplinary and everything gets blurred and mixed. So you will see a lot of people from computer science I've seen in TU Delft, they work in architecture. And it's more about what you are really interested. It's not about that branding, that because if your work is interesting, it can be of 5 different fields. You will always get potential clients, or you can start your company or get a job or do more research in that. So that made me happy. And then the face-to-face interview, I met another promoter who is currently in TU Delft. So he also helped a lot, like to understand what my research was, because his background is in this. So he was very happy that my background was in that similar field. And then we kind of discussed a lot about the what can I do, and but the thing is everything was open. So because it did not have a defined objective, which is very rare in PhD advertisements here, at least in Netherlands, so they also kept it open and try to understand what are my skills and what are my interest sets. So even when I started my PhD, I remember like 6-7 months it took me. Although I had freedom, sometimes I felt lost. Like obviously they were there to help me. Like, okay, there are so many facets to it, so which one can I choose, or which one is bit new, like not like something I'm repeating again what people have already done. And then I focused on one specific area, which till now is, many things are yet to be explored or opened. But what I'm doing now, in one line I can say, because I've said it 100 times, I think, I would not say 100, but so I can really summarize it in 1 line or 2 line what I'm doing, and I think you will understand, because people understand. So it's called co-located collaboration analytics, in short, from which the co-located word has been cut off after the COVID-19. So probably my thesis title will be also something like that, like collaboration analytics, and maybe a co-located with a cross. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean on your LinkedIn also it says co-located with a cross.
So I'm trying to sell that thing, but I don't know if they will allow me to put a cross on the title according to the rules. I have no idea. Yeah. So because it connects me a lot. So what I was doing initially was, suppose you are doing a group work. That group work can be like a group assignment, or can be a group brainstorming session, can be a group meeting, specifically group work in face-to-face settings. So I try to use different sensors, for example, like microphone, camera, or I was using the simple sensors. I don't want to go into the details of the literature, but when I was doing literature review, there are a lot of studies who have used different kind of sensors, but mostly it was on individualistic settings. So whatever group research has been done, like to detect the quality of the group, has been mostly in the last decade, has been mostly on online settings, and face-to-face settings is very messy. So even in individualistic setting, when you have multiple sensors, and if it is not in one device, like for example Microsoft Kinect, many of my colleagues use Microsoft Kinect to build something like a presentation trainer for a single person based on his voice levels and his gestures. So they faced a lot of challenge. When I joined the PhD, I heard from them, because not everything was tracked by Kinect, and for some aspects they needed something like a microphone or a camera. And then when you have multiple sensors, Synchronization, which saying in words is very easy, is really a big issue if you really want to give a real-time feedback, because then the timing and everything comes into play, and there are a lot of other compounding factors which can complicate things, and that is for an individualistic setting. And what I was doing was for like a group, and in a group there are again many problems which open up. So I learned it the hard way, and also my supervisors helped me a lot. Like initially I was like, okay, I will use Microsoft Kinect, this sensor, that sensor, that sensor. And then slowly when I realized the complications and the difficulties, then I narrowed it down to only audio. Because if you see the literature, more than 70% of the work in group settings, there are very few works in detecting the quality of collaboration face-to-face setting, but most of them used audio as a modality. So that is where the term multimodal comes. So again, multimodal is very debated in our field. So sometimes people, so the way I understand, I will tell you that definition, that is just the mode. Like we use different modes to like see, hear, or write. So that's why the way we define it, it's basically like the modalities that we use to perceive things, like the senses. So you can call it in simple words like audio, video, and text, which is the writing, is generally considered another modality, but that is again debated. So I don't want to go into the details. So that is where the term comes from. If you remember, I mentioned that in my master thesis about learning analytics, and now you have different modalities in the face-to-face settings, that is multimodal, and then you combine it and it becomes multimodal learning analytics. So multimodal learning analytics is an approach to solve things in which my focus is mainly on the collaboration. So that's why you call it collaboration analytics. Analytics in a way fits here in the work that I'm doing. To detect certain quality indicators. I can give you some examples from literature. There are many, like sometimes when people are working in pairs in group programming sessions, there was one work and they said like how often both the persons look at the same area of the screen, the shared screen through which they are doing collaborative programming. That defines the quality of collaboration. So for example, they had like, if you can say like two groups, one group where the eye gaze of both the persons coincided in the same shared area of the screen more number of times, and suppose take it like 90 and the other group had 80, then the quality of the code that they developed, they found that there is a pattern that people who had more instances of this shared coincidence of the shared vision, then their quality of code was better, and also in the post test they had a better score in the exams. So they formulated a statement saying that okay, if there are more shared instances of eye gaze, like they call it joint visual attention, JVA, then the quality of collaboration is better when you are doing pair programming. Like this in physical setting also, there are like 14-15 different scenarios, like brainstorming meetings, and for each scenario you'll have different quality metric. So till COVID-19, that is March, I was focused on that, because first year of the PhD mostly you spend on the literature study, writing the literature review, and bit of doing the, like after 4 or 5 months you start doing also some experiments, but ideally they don't expect you to like have an initial prototype version in the first year. It's basically to spend your time, get used to what the field that you are going into. So so this was what I did. I think like I'm making it too long, I think.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting actually. You explained how you got introduced to this particular topic. I think your choice of master's thesis was played a very important role in your PhD topic selection, and then we'll also talk in more detail about your research specifically in the next part of the conversation.
Okay.
And also about if there are some products that are coming out of this research institute that are actually applied to some MOOC platforms or something, but we'll talk more about that in the next section. So now can you talk about how you have evolved over the past several years before you came to the Netherlands. You also have a YouTube channel. At what point, you started to build your YouTube channel? How have you basically evolved over the past several years?
Okay. Let me divide it into two parts. Like first I will tell what I was telling before in short, like about the research involvement, and then I will tell about the how the YouTube channel has helped me also to evolve personally for me. So regarding the research, I think this also I mentioned in many videos. Like in my master thesis, I don't know if it is true for everyone coming from India, but for me it was the problem. So you always have to define a clear. I think it is true for universally all over the world. When you start a research, if you want to make it very clear, you always have a very clear problem statement, and to solve or define that problem statement, you always frame some sub research questions. So the way I say it, it's like problem statement is your main research question, what you want to do, and then you have some sub research questions which help you to answer those main research question. So in my master thesis, it took me I think like 2 or 2.5 months to frame only one research question. And then my supervisors were like really worried at some time, like, okay, will this guy be able to proceed further in his master thesis? And they were also surprised that I have already finished bachelor's, irrespective of which country I come from. How can I not think and understand what is a research question? But I lacked that understanding. So I don't know, like I don't think anyone explained how it is possible. They said they tried to assist me, but I think it was the gap what I felt like they did not know how to make him explain this thing. So it took me a lot of time, but with time, after I read many papers and tried to internalize those things what they are trying to explain, because when you read abstract or introduction, normally in our field I've seen like in introduction people start with a research question or end the introduction with a research question. So once I read them again and again, then I try to understand what actually it means, like what is a research question. And that is really I think is essential if you are doing any sort of research in the future after masters also. So that helped me a lot. So when I started my PhD, I would say it was really like at that time I did not feel any burden or anything when I was writing the research proposal, which normally you write in the first year. Even though you have a project, you need to write a research proposal here in Netherlands, because after 1 year you have a yearly review, and in that they judge you based on your proposal, and there will be 2 people from the external committee. So I would say research question was my main hurdle, and once I knew that, then I learned many other things. That was the difficult phase. And then I think I had 2 supervisors in my master's. One was from Italy, one was from Germany. And the person who was from Germany, she helped me a lot to learn how to write a paper, because I had one publication luckily when I was finishing my master's, like 2 months before. And she played a really big role in that. So even though I had this much struggle in the beginning, I think they trusted, and she, like, I was not able to know like what part I should contribute in the paper, because for me at that time writing a paper was a big challenge. And the second thing was also like how the work is divided, because it was not like whole paper was written by me. Obviously the first author, as I mentioned in the beginning, like was the PhD from Switzerland who built that product, and I was the second author, and my other 2 supervisors were third and fourth. So she tried to make that division also for me to make it easier to understand, because she thought I did not know in the beginning. So like, okay, you work on this table, you have already used R, so make this visualization. And mostly I would say like the discussion and conclusion, which are the major parts of the introduction, discussion and conclusion are the major parts of the paper. I think they were handled by both of them, and that also doesn't happen most of the times, because when you reach certain maturity level, they also expect you to grab that thing because it is yours, it is not theirs. They are just supervisors, they are not like so I also had that expectation. That also changed with time after I was finishing masters. By the time I was finishing masters, was that initially I was thinking like, okay, they are my supervisors, so why don't they work with me and this, that. And then I learned like, okay, you should be independent. And that independent thing, I think, is more you do it, you will understand what actually it means. If someone says you in the beginning and you have never faced that independence in your working or in your study, then I don't think you'll realize it. But the moment you are faced with that and you experience it, then you learn it really better, like what actually independence means. And I think in my research, these are the phases. Like once I started my PhD, I would not say like I learned a lot about like how to sell yourself, because I feel like PhD can be equated to someone who is good in marketing and someone who is also a good lawyer. I don't know if everyone agrees with me, but
in what
you
sense?
you should really learn how to take your position. Like, okay, if you disagree with something with your supervisors, sometimes you also, if you disagree, they appreciate it, until and unless you can reason it and define it, like why you disagree. Like what I wanted to say is that if you make an argument, then you should also have some backing based on from literature or some papers, or maybe some rationale for your thought, like why you think this is not right or this is right. So in that sense, I would say I think, I don't know, like it's very similar to what a lawyer does. And marketing wise, I would say it is 100%. It is not even, there's no doubt. Like you need to really sell yourself to be visible in this. It can be in any form. Like you can sell yourself. I mean, nowadays most people are selling digitally. But in our field, especially, I've seen people even selling on Twitter, because I don't think people from other fields, like other than computer science, I have asked also many of my friends, they don't use Twitter that often for research. But I also don't know about
selling in what sense. What do you mean by selling in the PhD
like
context?
Suppose, for example, if you publish a paper, then in Twitter our community is very active. So suppose you tag 10 of them, and then you say, okay, this is my paper, and do you agree with this, or something, like to initiate a conversation. And
so that you
then,
get more citations on a long term
like
basis.
visibility. So and if obviously your work is good, then that will also amplify it further. Like maybe in a simple scenario, it can get maybe like 10 persons to read it and one citation, and once they see like this, okay, they will also share with their PhD students or postdoc students if they think it is interesting. And apart from citations, there are many other benefits, like you can do some collaborations if they think that, okay, this work is really interesting. And I also forgot, like my PhD was from Twitter. So the advertisement of the PhD, I got it from Twitter. There is one professor whom I follow. I think he's in Aachen, computer science. What was his name? Ralph Klammer. I don't know if you know him. So he regularly posts about vacancies on Twitter. So I was following certain hashtags, and it also helps you. It's like another stream of getting information if you don't feel overloaded. And
Twitter
there are many others. Like
Twitter is a place one would not expect to find some work related stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that is what I think. Like most people, either they have not tried it, or they don't know, or maybe it is not relevant to their field. Because I think people who are, at least my friends who are in 3ME or mechanical or electrical, their community never uses Twitter to advertise these things, or so obviously they won't get any information unless your community is really active on Twitter. And I think, I mean, my field is active, and I've also seen some researchers in computer science, in HCI especially, in human computer interaction. They also advertise there, like from CMU or Carnegie Mellon University. There are some professors whom we also send DM. Like if they find something interesting, you can also DM them and they will respond, obviously. So I feel it is beneficial. Maybe it is subjective, but I feel it is really beneficial. So
So connecting with the right people who are in your field and
yeah,
increasing your visibility is also very important.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, selling can come from many different. There are many ways to sell yourself. So you can sell via writing a blog, regular blog, or I don't think that selling via vlog is that effective, but I mean, at least I didn't find it effective. So maybe you need to build a huge audience to sell via a vlog. That's like a
Okay.
video. But yeah,
And
obviously you
you have
can.
tried that as well.
Yeah. So you can, but you can obviously make short videos and also share on Twitter or LinkedIn, and like a 1 minute or 30-second video, and write a small description, and then people might be interested and they can. I mean, you never know. So the thing is, the world is so small. You think it is big, it's not really big. So you'll find a lot of connections will hit you. And I mean, I have a lot of experiences. Like once I was traveling in a plane from Amsterdam to Delhi, and normally people who come from US, they transit via Amsterdam. Most of the people choose Amsterdam because it's easier for them to transit. And there was a couple who till now work in Microsoft, and we were discussing about my topic. And so I did not get any offer if people are becoming anxious, but it was just I got some new ideas. Like they also said, like, if in future you want to contact, you can contact me, and your work is very interesting. So like this, you the more you talk to people, maybe physically, maybe digitally, and the more you communicate and spread out your research, there is more potential for it to reach people whom you have also never expected, and you may get a connection request or a message saying, okay, I'm interested in a work, do you want to collaborate?
Yeah.
Or never
Connecting
know.
with the right people, but also probably sometimes you will get the relevant ideas that you can, because everyone thinks differently. So you
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
like, yeah, oh, I didn't think like that. And then you can also explore that particular direction to say. So
Yeah.
you also have this YouTube channel where
Yeah.
you post your lifestyle related videos, PhD related videos, and other things. So at what point did you decide that, okay, I should start this YouTube channel, and what is the goal of this YouTube channel?
So yeah, so when I came to Netherlands in 2015, I searched a lot on the internet, and I don't know why this happened, but I think at that time I was never searching on YouTube for any like people do now. Like if they search on YouTube for Netherlands or Germany, they find a lot of information. But at that time, I did never searched a video. I always searched on Google and also Quora. So I will explain how Quora came into the picture. I think most people know, like just like Reddit. I mean, I have never used Reddit, but I was thinking soon to open a Reddit account, but that will be too much. I will see in future. But I think it is also very good Q&A. I mean, in Reddit, I think you'll find more varieties, and Quora is. Quora also there are varieties, but I don't know exactly the difference. But I think Quora is small in terms of user base than Reddit. That's what I think. Yeah. So Quora education related, you will find a lot of information about studying or something. So in Netherlands, I found some information on Quora, but not that much. And I think because we did not have internet, like at least in 2015 where I was staying, I did not have that good internet that I will always search videos. Maybe that is a reason. I don't know, that the geo might have transformed the Indian internet landscape. I don't know.
But I think, yeah, normally this YouTube as a search engine is being more used over the past several years, I guess 5 or 6 years or so. Because before that, you would just Google it. Now, how
Yeah.
to do this is what we will
Yeah.
search in YouTube, and there are billions of other YouTube options, that video options that you can browse from.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, so because I struggled at that time, as I could not find that much information about Netherlands, once I came here after 1 year, that is after finishing my courses, when I was starting my thesis, I again went to Quora. I don't know why. And then I thought like, okay, people are, and there I saw there are a lot of unanswered questions about Netherlands. And I think there are very few professors who are really old and they're staying in US or something, not in Netherlands, but they are originally Dutch. So they were answering some questions which are really related to teaching and everything, but about the living expense, living and all, I did not find any. That was in 2016. I think hardly there will be 5 or 10 responses, and many were unanswered questions. But people were, there was a community which was really interested in that, but there was no one to help them.
So,
So
there was a problem, but no solution.
Yeah.
You had the audience already ready, but
Yeah.
there was no content existing.
Yeah. So I think for like 1 year till the end of my masters, I was just writing answers, sometimes on weekdays and mostly on weekends for 1 or 2 hours. And I don't think it was driven by anything, any personal benefit or anything. I just felt like, okay, I did not get this facility or information. So why not share this information with everyone so that people can find benefit, and who knows, like, and when I was doing that, after 4 or 5 months, there was a accumulation of answers, and Quora used to show like most viewed writers in Delft, because I was mostly answering about TU Delft and some questions about Netherlands. So it was always, I was on the top, and the person in the second was having really huge margin, because obviously no one was interested to answer that. And during that time, many people also contacted, they got the name and everything from there and contacted via other social media. And sometimes also people ask, how can I contact you? I want to talk to you. And like that, I think I used to share my number with few people. And I think there are like 20 or 30 people in that whole year who talked with me someday. Like someone had question about the lifestyle, living, the language. Because when you have no information, if one person is giving something, then obviously they're very curious and they want to see, okay, if it will be a really good fit or they have some problems there. So like that, I talked with them. And towards the end of 2017, when I finished my master's, I felt like there was a point coming where I'm repeating a lot. So about housing, I have written already a blog in Quora, like a small post, and those same questions people ask on phone, and I say to 2-3% the same things. And then I thought, like, why not open a YouTube, because now YouTube is becoming so popular about the education and everything, and then just discuss that particular themes, because my initial videos are mostly like about my PhD and also about the specific things which you ask in a country, like the permanent residence, the living expenses, the study, the very basic things which if you don't have any videos in a country and someone makes it, probably people will watch it. So and also the idea was like, okay, now if someone asks me or calls me, I will just send that video link and say, okay, this is already there, so I don't want to repeat myself. So it will also save my energy and time, also help others. Yeah, so that was the main idea behind. So it was never in my mind that, okay, let's make a YouTube channel and everyone will watch me, and that I don't think everyone also has that idea ever. But the Quora made like the base for me to go there, like to the YouTube. And I think I would say one thing, like I never realized it, but when I see my videos and I also feel it, like I think 100% my speaking abilities and the way I give presentation even during my PhD has improved a lot after speaking a lot and doing this YouTube channel. And I think that is where the YouTube and research can be co-located, like the two
They
things
feed
can
on
be
to
combined.
each other. So
Yeah.
communication
So
would also be beneficial in your PhD, I guess.
yeah. So apart from that, I think it is just improving your skill set and feeling happy when you help others. So
Yeah, and you enjoy a lot as well while making these videos. You really love these videos that you create with so much passion and enthusiasm. So also you mentioned that so there would be like a few things, few areas in which you evolved over the past several years. So one would be, shifting your own mindset while working on thesis, and PhD is a huge challenging task in itself. So one would be the mindset part of it, the other would be communication and reaching people and helping others. So there also comes a sense of contribution that you would feel. So that's a really inspiring journey that you shared with us right now. Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this particular conversation and it helped you in some way, shape, or form. If it did, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification icon or the bell icon so that you can get notified on time whenever the next part is out. Also, it would be really great if you could give me your feedback in the comments below. That would really help me improve. I'm uploading small clips of the long podcasts on a regular basis on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So make sure to follow me on these platforms if you're someone who cannot take out time for the long episodes. The podcasts are also available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Google Podcasts. So if you're someone who prefers to listen to podcasts rather than watching full-length videos, make sure to follow on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you very much and see you next time.